Begin transmission, everybody. Transmitting from Hoff. Outer Rim Transmission is live with episode 184, joined by the full crew. It's a big one. We're discussing the finale for Skeleton Crew. This is episode 8 of season 1, and this one is specifically called The Real Good Guys. So, of course, we're going to do a deep dive into that and the season as a whole. But first, we're actually making a first here on the podcast. We actually have Milton literally walking through the frozen tundras of Hoth as we speak on the podcast. So thanks for sacrificing yourself out there for the sake of the podcast and the content, man. We do appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Do you guys can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reporting live for my my little hometown. And I'll give you guys a little quick shot of it as I'm walking through the snow. Hopefully you can pick this up on a video, Chris. I can actually get this to work. But if you don't, it's okay. But I'm actually outside walking. It feels like Hoth out here. Legit. So I'm doing this for you guys, because you know what? We've got to survive the elements. I don't care where I'm at. I'm going to do the podcast. So here it is. We're here. Definitely glad to be back. Playoff weekend. Let's go.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
That was a nail-biter of a game that just ended in Philly. But there you go. Off to the championship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's get it.
There we go. There we go. So what's going on, Ben?
I've just pretty much been doing the same thing as Milton, just working out and watching playoff football all weekend. And then, along with these awesome playoff games, we got the College National Championship as well, which hopefully Ohio State wins that. So it's a big time of year for us football lovers. So it's been a lot of fun, and then just excited to get on here and talk some Star Wars. Like, this is should be a good podcast.
Heck yeah. So I was worried that I wasn't going to have a Star Wars thing to report on for my week in Star Wars, but it was actually inadvertently given to me by my girlfriend, who often sends me Instagram videos of just random stuff. And obviously, she sends me Star Wars stuff from time to time. It surprises me. And she actually sent me a fact that I had no idea about. So I think it was late last week that the famed director of a lot of good stuff, David Lynch, passed away. And she had... That. Oh, yeah, he had passed away.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so she had sent me this video, I don't even know when it was, of him talking about him meeting with George Lucas to potentially direct Return of the Jedi back in the day. Did any of you guys know that he was in the running to do that? I had no idea.
Well, no, I didn't know that, but that's kind of surprising only because at that time, if you really understand George's path and his issues with the Screen Actors Guilds and Directors Guilds and Writers Guilds, he pulled out because they were trying to fine him because of the way he did the credits. So he decided to pay all the fines, but get rid of that. Like, he pulled out the guild, so he couldn't really hire his first choice, which was Steven Spielberg, which is interesting. He went to Old Boy, so that's shocking to hear that.
Yeah, so it's like a 3-minute video. I'll have to try to find a way to link you guys with the video, because it was very interesting how he went about it. Like, George gave him the call, and he's like, yeah, okay. They flew him out to San Francisco, and it was all this crazy stuff. He said he had to go to this one building to get this key card, to get this map, to basically go on another journey to get the Skywalker Edge. Like, it was very secretive kind of stuff. And then George Lucas was driving him around in his Ferrari, and George is not the tallest guy, but the way he was sitting in his seat, how David Lynch was describing, he was barely able to see, he was leaning all back, just driving this car through this small town, getting to a restaurant where all they offered was salads. So David Lynch was okay, but going into this, David Lynch, he was yeah, I appreciate what George does, but I'm not into Star Wars. Basically, he's blah 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 blah, and basically the thing that really just got him to not care about this was the Wookiees. I guess George was showing him all the concept art of the Wookiees and everything, and he just wasn't into it. He was just no. And then he basically told George no. And then his lawyers, David Lynch's lawyers, and his agent was like, "Are you crazy? You're literally turning down billions and billions and billions of dollars." And he's basically, yeah. At the time, I was probably could have have had a completely different career if I would have went down that path. But he did really, really good stuff besides Star Wars, obviously. So I thought that was really interesting. How it seems like me and you guys pretty much know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff when it comes to these movies, and when stuff trickles in like this, it's always fun to actually hear. So.
All right. Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. Like I said, which is why Richard Marquand was hired, because he was a Welsh director who wasn't a part of the Directors Guild, which is why George went that route. But George pretty much still did direct the majority of Return of the Jedi from behind the scenes.
Oh yeah. People always forget about that too, like, or don't realize that, like, George was heavily involved in the OT, and there's always, like, the internet will make you think George wasn't involved with Empire or Jedi, and then even with like Clone Wars, like the original Clone Wars series, like people make it seem like it's just strictly a Dave Filoni thing, but George was heavily involved in Clone Wars, so it's just like people don't realize how much George actually was involved in.
Yeah, it's just 19 I guess that would have been what, like 1981?
Probably 80, 81, 82.
Yeah, something like that. So there you go. A blast from the past. Do you guys got anything to report on for this week as far as Star Wars? I've been just loving this this show on Netflix. I've been watching Arcane, which I guess you could like kind of connected to Star Wars with some of the themes, family and just different things, redemption and different things like that. But other than that, I've been just Skeleton Crew. That's about it for me.
Yeah, I say for me this week, it's pretty much, as you guys, like I said, we started the show off. I am reporting live outside, taking a walk in Hoth, and my brother, who watches the show consistently, he just moved to Minnesota like 4 weeks ago. And literally, he's like, Milton, it is -10 half the time. And he's like, I feel like I need a Tauntaun.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, it's that bad. So he's always reporting about how cold it is and how it feels like Hoth and all that other shit. So I'm like, yeah, a Tauntaun would be nice right now.
Oh yeah. Hey, I mean, that's a good week in Star Wars there. I mean, for me over here, it's similar. It's kind of a basic week in Star Wars, dealing with all the cold stuff like your brother, and of course all three of us are. And then other than that, like, for me, it was just basic. It was just cool seeing some nostalgia bits on Instagram. Like, I was scrolling through Reels, and I seen a thing from when Clone Wars was on, when General Grievous was like on Toonami, and he was like, tune in at 9:00, Clone Wars returning, yada yada, and he was like talking with Tom on Toonami and stuff. So that was really cool. Like, seeing that between that. Yep. So seeing like that was one that popped up on my Instagram, and then of course there's some dark humor Star Wars ones I was sending Milton. I won't talk about on here, but the
one I posted today on Instagram with the whole TikTok. Yeah, that one's insane.
Yeah, I know. I was cracking up. You and me always find some good Star Wars ones on there, but
right.
Yeah, that's kind of like my week in Star Wars, just finding some good Star Wars reels.
Right. I'm actually working on one more, hopefully, in the next couple weeks. So I was on eBay about a week ago. I found one of these old vintage tapes of the NFL that I like to watch back in the day. But I'm trying to look for an old VCR I can watch the special editions on tape. So I'm in the process of looking for a VCR to watch the Star Wars special editions, the gold box.
Yeah, I got it right there. Gold box is right over there.
Yeah. So I have mine in my living room, shelved up. I got to just find a VCR that still works somewhere. Hopefully, it doesn't eat my tapes, but we'll see.
You need to have a test tape, Milton. Like, just find a movie you don't want. That's how the method was back in the day. Hey, let's sacrifice one movie.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, man. So getting into the show proper, we are live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are also available on any podcast streaming network of your choice. Go ahead and search Outer Rim Transmission to be locating our podcast and give us any kind of feedback, positive, of course, on any platform that you watch or you listen to us on. That being said, we have one release this week, and that was, you could have probably guessed it, the Battle of Jakku This is Last Stand number 3. So the penultimate issue of the entire Battle of Jakku run combines elements of Chuck Wendig's Alphabet's Squadron or trilogy, as well as the Aftermath trilogy. There we go, I got there. And a lot of other things, all culminating at the Battle of Jakku. So we have the next issue coming out literally this week. So that'll finish up that whole thing, and we'll see what happens next. But there really was not any other Star Wars news to note this week. So without further ado, we're going to jump into our discussion for Skeleton Crew. This is Season 1, Episode 8, The Real Good Guys. In this, everything comes to a conclusion. Ad-Adin is revealed to the wider galaxy. Jad Nahwood kind of just gives up and accepts his fate. And we have the kids reunited with a pretty happy ending. So I'm going to throw it over to Ben first. What was your first reaction and impressions of this final episode?
I thought they did a pretty nice job of wrapping things up. Like, you checked off your story points. You showed characters getting some humanity. I just thought they did a nice job of wrapping it to make it where if it's just one season, they did a good job of keeping it to where it's a contained story where you can be like, okay, that was a satisfying ending. I think it was fine. So I really think they did a good job. That was the important thing, sticking the landing. Like, you have to stick the landing on a show like this where it may or may not be only one season, and they did a really good job with that. So like, it did its job for me, and yeah, I just was pretty happy with where they went with the characters, some of the reveals we got, and yeah, just overall, I think it was a good way to end out Season 1.
Yeah, what about you, Milton? What'd you think about the episode?
I thought it was good. They did a good job. Now, I will say, full disclosure, I've only watched the first 3 quarters. I didn't see the last 15 minutes due to just time constraints this week. But from what I've seen, I was satisfied with this finale. I mean, I think they set it up to where there could be a Season 2. I really enjoyed the kids' interactions with their parents being reunited. I thought I would get annoyed with that, but I will say Wim was my favorite part of this episode. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Wow, I'm shocked.
He acts like he took leadership. I mean, he showed leadership qualities, and he pretty much told his dad, he's like, I want to do more than just what's expected of me. I want to go out there and try something different, pretty much, which I saw that's growth throughout this series and this season. So I felt the action was good. Again, this budget is insane. I thought they did a good job with Jude Law's character. I really love KB, like always. Fern, she was a solid character, and it was nice getting the parents involved finally. So, solid, good episode.
Yeah, I have to agree with both of you. I really enjoyed this episode on its own, right? Just looking at just the different elements, a lot of emotional resonance with just the kids coming together at the end. They think one of their friends is dead. They're all fine. They're all good. You got Wynn looking at the X-Wings, looking out the wider galaxy. Like, there's so much for him to explore. Just the elation of, I don't have to take the exams anymore. Just that whole thing of, yeah. And then just the stuff with Jude Law, just such a great inclusion into the Star Wars universe, Star Wars galaxy, with just the really interesting character, a villain he played in this show. But then you have the high exhilaration stuff, such as like the speeder bikes, which really harken back to ET Extraterrestrial. The kids on the bikes, floating with the power of ET through the redwoods there in California. Like, there's so much good kind of callbacks to that. All the kids having a role to play, whether it be Neil, like having that courage to go on that turret and try to like distract the ship, or you had KB piloting the ship by herself, and then you had Fern kind of standing up to Jod, and Wim is out there with his father. Like, there's like so many moments where these kids, they completed their character arcs. We've seen how they were set up. They've had adversity, they've had challenges. But when they were put on stage or at the end, they didn't misstep. They all carried through to the end, and they became stronger and a better individually, but better as a group as well. And we'll get into it. I feel like there should have been maybe one more big punch that would connect it to the Mandalorian verse. I was really hoping like, ooh, who's on the blockade runner? Is it going to be somebody we know? Or okay,
Right.
who's going to show up like after the credits and they're going to claim all the credits on the planet? Or what's going to happen with Jod? I mean, he kind of gave up in the end. Like his dreams were crashing in front of him. It was a really beautiful scene with that ship coming down. It really symbolizes that whole thing. But I would have liked to seen like some nefarious person like pick him up or get him out of jail or something like that.
Right.
Or, so I feel like there should have been that one little thing, and that would have made this like a 10 out of 10 episode for me. But still, in its own right, it still felt like it really wrapped everything up. And as you said, Ben, it stuck the landing in my eyes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it was kind of, we already had the answer for it potentially not being super connected to the Mandoverse, because it was supposed to come out November of 2023 and it got pushed a full calendar year. So like, if you can move a show a full calendar year, that means it's pretty much disconnected from everything. So like I don't know. I didn't mind them not like doing like a big thing like that, like a big connection. I thought it was good, like the way they did it. They loosely connected it with the Rangers of the New Republic, but yeah, I think when it comes to this show, one of the best parts of course, like you mentioned, was the character arc for the kids, but also like Jod, he, like you said, he's seeing his dreams crash upon him, and then on top of it, like, it just shows, like, he really wasn't about going and just, like, killing people and everything, because, like, he could have just killed the parents and the kids right there if he chose to, but he decided not to. And, you could even tell he was feeling guilty about when the ship crashed with KB, because, he was like, look what happened, look what you did, blah, blah, blah. Like, you could tell he was like, crap, I feel bad about this. And I think that's connected to him, seeing his just temporary master getting, taken out and hunted down, when he was younger. And I think that's why, he was feeling that way and stuff. And that's why he like showed them mercy versus just like, saying, hey, I'm going to go down with the ship and just take everybody out. Like, I think, those past events for him are what like led to him just like being, okay, I give up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, what did you think, Milton, when it came to like the setup for the beginning of this episode? How the pacing was and all.
Yeah, so I thought like how they set it up with the last episode with the whole lightsaber ignition. People probably thought, oh, he's going to just kill him right there.
Yeah.
Which I love how they started off where he's just like, no, I'm the emissary and I'm also a Jedi. And I thought that was a good way to get the audience back on board to say, oh, okay, we can take a breath. Let's play this out, whatever. I thought the pacing of this episode was solid. I never felt bored with it. I felt that Jude Law's character, he really drove, besides Wim, he really drove this episode, in my opinion, with his actions, how he interacted with the parents, which I thought that was the lasting part for me because we never saw him with the parents. And how he was really fooling them at first until obviously the supervisor was like, nah, or like he's referring back to Order 66, which I don't know if you guys picked up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But I thought that was cool. I thought the pacing overall was great, and I really enjoyed how they really progressed his story within this last episode.
Yeah, he was. Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think they did a good job of like picking up and carrying it forward. And like you said, it's cool just seeing those connections, Milton, to like Order 66 and like, his him being like pretty much picked up. If you think about it, like he was getting pretty much taken in right around the time of Order 66 when he when he got taken in, which I thought was a nice touch they did there. So it just,
which honestly, I don't think, which is funny because I don't think he really knows what that is, though. If you think about it, like, does he really know what Order 66 actually is? He probably just thinks, well, the Jedi were hunted, but he doesn't really have an understanding. Again, this is my opinion of it, an understanding of what that order really was. Which is probably why he didn't know.
Oh yeah, I definitely think so, as well. And like the interesting thing with him is like, there was a chick that was cast. It was like reported by Yahoo News and stuff. She was playing Jedi Master Nina Nawood, and
Yeah.
we didn't see like a major extensive like flashback type thing. So it's interesting, looking at it that way. Like we know he had a Jedi Master for at least for a short period of time.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting how the photos of the one actress kind of surfaced up this week to be like, oh, I wonder what that deleted scene was going to be like,
Right.
But, another thing I want to talk about, Ben, is me and you have been doing a lot of speculation, as we always do. And again, we didn't get it right. We still couldn't get the speculation correct, which is a good thing. Because if we're just, I was going to say we're casual. We're probably a little bit more than casual fans here because we're doing a podcast every week. But it was pretty much telegraphed what was going to happen, what we thought would happen. And there we go. It's like the Last Jedi, but in a good way, I guess. The expectations got subverted. So you actually don't have Tak Renad as the supervisor, but it's a freaking droid. What did you think of that, man?
Like I said, I was kind of going back and forth between Renat and a droid because the thing is, it just was so weird throughout the series. It was like we have all these droids talking about supervisors, and like the droids seemed to be ruling because like, when the dad went out in the woods, the droid was right there, the kids, whatever. So it was just weird. And like the more and more, thinking about it, it's like, my buddy was talking about it. My buddy Alex that's always on here. He was talking about it, and he's been saying for several episodes, like, oh, it's got to be a droid, it's got to be a droid, it's got to be a droid, because all of this foreshadowing, especially like last week when Jod was kind of talking down about droids, like dismissive of droids, like, oh, go get us a drink or whatever he said. So like that whole thing, it's interesting, and it's just pretty much like they pulled a Wizard of Oz on us, kind of.
I was about to say that too.
And Milton, the interesting thing about it, they 100% were taking homage from it because I seen screenshots because earlier in the season, so like this was screenshots I seen this week. They showed that people were posting images from like the second, third, and fourth episode when they were back on Atten, and when the parents are talking about like meeting with the supervisor, yada yada, the whole room is emerald colored actually. So it's like there's little Easter eggs, like kind of hinting at kind of a Wizard of Oz connection.
Which, I mean, honestly, I would have preferred that they actually did that because that character could have been someone that obviously we would have never met or known before. It'd been fascinating to see who actually ruled the whole entire planet, but for whatever it is, it works. I wasn't really mad when I just figured it out. Oh, it's just a droid who just controls everything. Whatever. I mean, again, it didn't take anything away from me when it comes to the whole entire story.
Oh, for sure. But I love the tension and the stakes at the end, the climax. It's like you have the levers that'll take down the shield forever and basically make the planet as a part of the wider galaxy, which could open up to more risk and threats and everything to the people on this peaceful planet. And it's like Jod wants the shield up, but the kids don't. But the mother kind of still wants it up. It's like it was this really good level of drama and tension that, in the long-term scheme of things, it's not like a galaxy crisis if this thing happens or not. But for the kids, it really is important. So, like, that's a cool thing about this show in general. It's just the idea that it's a more smaller scale, encapsulated kind of more personal story. But the ramifications for what they did are pretty big. Like, I'm pretty sure we're gonna actually hear the name Aladdin at some point in these next couple of years with the shows or the movies coming up, because there's a lot of questions that could still be answered by all those credits everywhere that could fund something,
Right. No, I mean, and here's the thing. It is a big deal. And just because again, it's a planet that was hidden away. I mean, like, there's a reason why it was hidden away. And I think it would be foolish of Disney, Lucasfilm, to be like, hey, let's just have this show and do a one-off and not bring this planet up if it was hidden. Like, I think it should have some consequences for now being exposed. Like, you would think this would be a perfect tie-in to how the First Order got funded. I mean, right there. I mean, that's your organic way of saying, okay, well, there was rumors about Aladdin. It came out. some of the old remnant imperial generals and admirals were like, hey, let's try to bring back the Empire because we need to fund this right there. I mean, you can perfectly tie it into to strengthen the sequel trilogy. You can use this planet, I think, to tie it in.
Oh, you know what? I got an idea. How cool would it be if the opening sequence of the Mandalorian Grogu movie, like we're panning in space and we pan to like a Star Destroyer orbiting at Atten, and like the officer's like,
Dude.
I want all the coins loaded up on the ship now, and then it's like something like that, you know?
Right? Like, yeah, or I like that idea. Use a character that we know from the books. Like, I mean, I don't know if Gallius Rax died or something during the books when it first was released, but imagine like either him or like Hux's dad was like, like, I mean, right there, dude. Like, you got your sequel trilogy startup right there. Just tell that backstory with saying, hey, Gallius Rax or Hux's pops found the planet, and you know Thrawn was going to do X, Y, and Z. Like, you got it right there.
Yeah, apparently, Ben, I don't know if you heard this. I'm getting off topic. My fault. But there are like, I guess you could find rumors of what the plot is for Mando and Grogu. I don't know if you've looked at those yet, or if you even plan. I'm not going to look at them, but I heard they're floating around.
Yeah,
the leaks are out apparently.
So basically, long story short, for anyone, and I'm not sure if Milton, since you've been pretty busy lately, if you've been kept up with any of the Star Wars rumor and innuendo. But basically, you have like all of our known people, like Jeff Snyder, Bespin Bulletin, like, you know, credible people,
Right.
putting together the characters in the movie. And Mando and Grogu basically you have Rada the Hutt as an adult with that actor from The Bear playing him.
Yeah.
And basically Rada needs saved. So it's basically race against time. Think about it like this: race against time. Rada needs to get saved by Mando and Grogu, and Embo, the bounty hunter from Clone Wars, is the main character, the main villain. That's going to be trying to kill Rada at the same time. So it's kind of race against time. And then the other tidbit we do know, from, I think it was from Hollywood Reporter, they reported it, that pretty much the actors who are involved with the Shadow Council, they're involved with this movie as well. So we know, like, the Shadow Council's in this. We know it's kind of race against time to go either get Rada or take him out. So it's basically, to me, I'm kind of like piecing it together where it's like, okay, you have that as kind of like, that's the front-facing storyline to get like the general audience kind of back on board with Mando doing a cool mission type thing. And then you have your sprinkled in your big picture connection to Thrawn via the Shadow Council. Maybe they're like hiring Embo to like take out Rada for some reason or something or another. But like, those are kind of like the tidbits we know so far about the movie. But yeah, basically what it is, you know, the big talking point is everybody's discussing what do you think is Embo as the villain of this movie.
Oh, is Embo? Is he the bounty hunter with the? Is he the one with the hat?
Yeah.
Yep.
How
Yeah,
is he
like
a main villain of a freaking movie? I'm sorry. This thing sounds pretty bad if that's the actual plot. Like this sounds like a freaking Clone Wars episode. How are they taking 3 or 4 years to bring this thing to the big screen to be so simple of a story? Like that better be a front.
Chris,
That better be like the first like 10 minutes.
Well, say, Chris, that could be the B plot for all we know.
Yeah, that's the thing. We also do have to remember when it comes to this stuff. Also, so like the Embo stuff, it's getting corroborated from Bespin, because Christian Harloff was the first one that reported it. And then Bespin corroborated it as well, and others did. So like, you know, it's a lot of reputable people are backing it. And it just, to me, it's kind of like, it matters how you do it, because the thing is, like, you know, we technically, we don't have a Moff Gideon right now to go up against Mando, and like, presumably Mando and Grogu are kind of like pseudo-retired after, you know, the events of Mando 3. Like, they're doing their thing. So to me, like, going into this movie, I was fully expecting the movie to be more of like, you know, hey, Mando and Grogu, we need to get you guys back into the fight. Like, you know, kind of like reluctant heroes getting back into the fight. Like, it was going to be like a recruiting thing. So to me, the best way to do a recruiting type thing is like, you're going to have Mando kind of get the taste again, you know what I mean, Milton, by like coming in to like maybe not a Thrawn level villain, something he can handle. It's kind of like
so-
Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, like at the beginning, you know?
Good point. And I'll have to say, because you need him to he needs to have something at stake. He can't just be, well, let's just go save somebody. But yeah, we've seen it. And
Yeah.
Chris is right. If this is the plot of the movie, I ain't buying it, because that sounds like a B plot episode from Clone Wars, or that sounds like a solid Clone Wars episode. This is like Mando and Grogu is now a IP that's worth billions. You cannot disrespect this property by giving us a B plot movie. I'm sorry. And I agree. He needs something needs to happen.
Yeah.
He needs to have some stakes in this.
Well, like Embo as a character is not that interesting. Like he doesn't really say anything. He's
Right.
He's an alien. So what are they gonna do? Like CGI him the whole time? Like it's not a great fit for a main villain. He's not gonna have any gravitas. People are gonna say, "Who the hell is this guy with this weird hat?" You know?
Right. Yeah.
To
You know what's
me-
funny though? Go ahead, man.
I was gonna say, to me, the one thing that's interesting about this whole Embo thing is, like, let's just run with it that he is the villain for a minute. Like, you talk about, like, I love Dave and everything, but you talk about ego. You're making yourself the villain. Because Dave voices that character.
Yeah. Here's the
He
right.
does?
Here's the thing though. He's a villain that no one in Star Wars really knows about, unless you're a hardcore
Yeah.
Star Wars head. And he kind of reminds me. And look, and I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan. He reminds me of Cabal, because Cabal doesn't do nothing. He just wears a mask. He wears a mask and he runs fast. Like, and that's it. He doesn't talk much. And when he does, he's not relevant. So this character reminds me of Cabal.
Yep.
Anyway, we're
I think
go
one
we'll go back.
more thing. one more thing. I do think, though, guys, with this, the main reason I have hope for this movie, if it is Embo and the rescue mission and whatever, I do think there is potential for it to be a big banger, just because it's Favreau directing, and we've seen Favreau. Look, he's literally the founder of the MCU, basically. Like, he knew how to build a movie to kick it off really well, and
Right.
I think that's the big thing that can't be understated enough with this. Is, like, you know, we may have the Embo plot, whatever, but we already know the Shadow Council's involved in this, so maybe we'll get that big boom Thanos thing at the end, you know, with Thrawn.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope. But getting back to this episode, there was a huge moment for me in this episode that I literally yelled out loud, "Ah!" Like when the X-wings come in. It's not just X-wings, everybody. They got freaking B-wings. One of my favorite ship designs that you see for a split second in Return of the Jedi. We get to see those things in action with the Rebels weaponry, where they're just shooting the lasers that they converge in the middle and just wipe out the pirate ship like it's nothing. You know, that was a shocker. I'm just so happy that the New Republic still employs B-wings, because I feel like they are pretty overpowered with the weaponry on those things, and they're known to be bombers and whatnot. So I was super happy as a B-wing fan to actually see it for the first time since Return of the Jedi in live action. So there we go.
Hey, it's impressive, man. Like, here's the thing though. You're right when you say about it's kind of shocking, because those things are kind of like OP a little bit, but it makes sense. It makes sense that they would show up as only 5 or 6 years after Return of the Jedi.
Mhm.
So they probably have to still be in somewhat production.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's always great seeing old vehicles like that, and you know, it's cool just getting to see a little taste of what the Rangers of the New Republic could have potentially been.
right.
Oh yeah, can you imagine, like, every week they would have, like, oh, we're reporting to this pirate holdout or this Imperial holdout, and that could have been really fun as an idea. Just kind of like the same sauce as the Mandalorian verse is made out of. Like, Mando has a lot of these one-off episodes that tangentially connect to something else, so I could have seen that same kind of thing. And I still want that Rogue Squadron movie. I mean, no one says it's dead yet. I just who knows when it's going to come out, but I mean, I don't know what Patty Jenkins is up to, but I definitely could use an X-Wing movie. I'm still down for that.
Yeah, that would
Right.
be cool. But I think the chances of that happening are the chances of me and Milton and you doing us three directing a Star Wars movie.
Yeah. Or Justice League 2 coming out. Or Man of
Yeah,
Steel.
or Justice League 2.
Well, that's never happening now. Oh yeah. What are there any other big highlights for you that happened in this episode, character wise, action sequence wise, storytelling wise?
I mean, I think overall this episode was a solid way to tell an adventure story again. Overall, the show was like that, and we'll get to our liking of the show as we go on. But this episode had a good mix of everything, whether it's Goonies, whether it's Indiana Jones feel, whether it was I guess Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, anything you can think of, Wizard of Oz, like it felt pure.
Yeah, pure is a good way of putting it.
I completely agree with you. I think one of the best examples of that as well is the theme. I really, even though the theme isn't a big overpowering like Star Wars booming theme or whatever, I think the theme was a really nice, like charming, like tone setter for like this, pirate show led with kids and stuff. Like I think I really, really enjoyed that, just that little theme at the beginning of each episode.
Oh yeah, that's some good stuff right there. Some good stuff. What about you, Milton? Any last thoughts? We can get what I want to try to do is we'll give this episode a score, and then we'll talk about the entire show as like a whole. I guess
like a whole episode down the road. I got you. I respect that.
Wait, no. Well, yeah, we'll talk about the whole episode. We'll give a score for the episode now, and then we'll circle back and we'll talk about the series as a whole.
Oh, okay, got you.
Right now, yeah.
Yes. So, like, I think for me, this episode, out of 10, I'll give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. I mean, it could have been a 9. Even though I didn't finish the last 10 to 15 minutes for what I've seen, I was very satisfied. There was never a moment where I was like, oh, that doesn't work for me, or oh, that's stupid. I was like, oh, okay, this works, or this ties in, or this fits well. I thought the kids didn't act like kids in this episode in a lot of ways. They actually kind of grew up. And I saw a lot of that, and I was loving that because I'm like, finally, they went through something, and everything now pays off as it should. Again, Jude Law for Star Wars to bring in a international star like Jude Law, and people forget he's an international star. For him to be the lead, but also sometimes know when to take a backseat to the kids in this episode or other episodes before, loved it. So overall, this is an 8.5 out of 10. Very satisfied. Great finale. Hopefully, we get a season 2 because this is the type of show that deserves a season 2 now, depending on what story they want to tell moving forward.
All right, we're going to put a pin in that season 2 discussion as soon as me and Ben give our thoughts. So, Ben, what is your thoughts on score for episode 8, The Real Good Guys?
Yeah, I think the episode, I can echo a lot of Milton's points. I think it was very good. I really liked where they finished off with the characters from start to finish. We've seen all of the kids have a great character arc, but also we've seen Jod have a nice character arc. Also, another underrated aspect, big applause for them, for John Watts and the writers also giving even our side characters character arcs, like the parents going from pretty much living in a utopia to, oh, we're in a combat zone, and they're like showing bravery to like help their kids out and stuff. I thought that was really awesome because their parents could have easily, like his Wim's dad could have easily just been like, no, we got to stay here and like bunker down or whatever, and he gets in the mission with him. So I really like that they even address the side characters of the show. So like, to me, I think they did such a nice job of balancing the character arcs between all of the characters we met for this show. And I just was really happy with the finale. And like Milton said, after this, it deserves a second season. And for me, it's a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be an 8.5 out of 10 matching with Milton. Like I said, I was still expecting that one last thing, that one last little zinger at the end to kind of go, oh, kind of like the end of Mando season 2 when Book of Boba Fett, Boba Fett shows up on the throne, kills Bib Fortuna. Like that was probably the most badass post-credit scene we've ever gotten in Star Wars. Like that was so sick, and I was really hoping we get something for that, but we did not. So alas, but up until that point, everything else was great. As you all said, one thing I wanted to mention, Wim's dad that moment when he actually has fun and he's like on the bike and he's flying and he's like, and his son has to pull him back to reality for a moment. I thought that was a great role reversal, but it also shows like, yes, like these people were so sanitized in their everyday life that they became immune of like the more normal function of humans. Just like have fun every once in a while, live a little, live life on the edge and get the adrenaline flowing. Like it was great to see that little moment. So yeah, it was great to see the parents coming into the fold, everything coming around full conclusion. Great ending for John. Well, maybe the beginning, a new beginning for him. Maybe we'll see. And yeah, everything coming home to roost. But very good. I will give it 8.5 out of 10. Well, I guess we'll start there. So you guys both want a season 2, huh?
Oh yeah, I think it definitely deserves a second season for all of the reasons we mentioned, but also what we've been saying pretty much since the first episode. I think, I don't even think. If you just look on social media, you look at the ratings. I'm not the biggest fan of Rotten Tomatoes, but if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes ratings for critics, for fans, even just the overall just vibes of social media. I'm not like, of course, you can't always renew everything based on vibes because that just isn't reality because of money. But the thing is, it just feels like this show has been a neutral to positive experience for like most folks, even some of the more critical people like myself. I'm friends with Star Wars Meg. She was critical of the Acolyte, and she loved this series. And then even like bigger channels that are critical of Star Wars, like Star Wars Theory can be critical sometimes, and he liked the series. Like he thought it was solid throughout. Like, so you have all these people like me, like all those others. Like there's so many folks that were critical of the last Star Wars project. Then when you see this, it's like, yeah, I could do a second season of this show because it was just like a neutral to positive experience for the most part. Like to me, at minimum, it was neutral, and I think that's deserving enough to get a second season just because, you don't have this social media crazy negative PR storm that we had. And it just, I just think there's justification there. And on top of it, the budget was way less than the Acolyte was. And then, other projects as well. So I just think there's a lot of ducks in a row for it to potentially be deserving of an argument for a second season.
Yeah, so I guess I'll be the devil's advocate on this one. I don't think it needs a season 2. I think season 1 really does such a great job. Again, just like Mando season 1 does, of like, here's a story, here's a conflict, here's the rising action, here's the conflict, here's the falling action, conclusion, resolution, done. I think at this point, the kids, it's if it was any other kind of characters, sure, they would get a season 2. My biggest thing is like, what are they going to do with these kids? Like these kids are not going to become soldiers of the New Republic. They're not going to become like full-fledged Jedi Knights. Like
John Watts, he answered that already, actually.
Oh, okay. I'm curious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, John Watts answered that in the interview with Collider. He actually, when he was talking about the second season, he said even if there's 5 years between when we filmed or 6 years between when we filmed Skeleton, because they filmed Skeleton Crew back when like Ahsoka was filming years ago, and so this has been in the can forever. And he said if we have a 5-year gap between when we filmed Skeleton Crew to now, or a 6-year gap, or so, I think he used 5 to 7 year gap or whatever as the example, the kids are going to just be aged up. He said we're not going to try to like age them down weirdly and like make it this weird thing where they're you have a 17-year-old playing an 11-year-old or something. So like he addressed that already, that they're going to just, whatever the age is, that's how far they're in the Mando timeline, they're going to move the show up, basically, is what he was saying.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that was my thing, is like it does so well with just setting everything up in its own season. The world, like their planet, was the whole reason they were trying to go back. They were trying to go back home. That was the MacGuffin, was the planet itself, trying to get there. They finally got there. Conflict resolved. That's why I'm just like, okay, obviously new conflicts can become involved. And I like what Milton was saying earlier in the episode of like, that is a good point of, oh wow, a planet has become known to the rest of the galaxy. What is that like? We see planets getting destroyed all the time. But what is it like when you get a planet that enters the galaxy with all that money? That's going to be a flashpoint. You're going to get the Hutts involved. You're going to get the Black Sun involved. You're going to get the Imperial Remnant involved from multiple factions of the Imperial Remnant. You know, you're going to get the New Republic. Like, it's going to be a flashpoint to see who's going to get that money first. So that could be the granted, if that was the case, I don't know how the kids would be involved in that kind of larger scope story. But at the very least, what I think could happen with this series is Jad Na would end up in something further along in another movie or something as an older character that has access to the Force. Now, maybe they'll dive deeper into that if he's a partner of something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this one, Milton. So what do you think about the idea of, right now, Jad, we're presuming he obviously just like got arrested, basically. He's getting arrested while being in possession of like a lightsaber. So do we get a story where maybe Luke is talking to him or something and all of this stuff? Like what would you think of that type of a story? Like maybe we get an interaction, something, whether it be like a Mando season or like one of these upcoming shows, like an interaction between Luke and Jad.
Uh-oh. Milton.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose Milton? Oh, no. Are we going to have to send out a search party? He's out there in Hoth. We might have to send out some snow speeders and get the Tauntauns ready.
Hopefully a Wampa didn't get him.
Oh, gosh, no.
But, well, as we're waiting on Milton to pop back in, what do you think of that, Chris? What do you think of, like, potentially Luke and Jad interacting? Like, maybe even Luke having, like, a sit down being like, oh, talking to him about the old days, like when Order 66 happened, like something like that, like, talking to him in Rebel prison or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you got to figure that he would want to have, he would be wanting to talk to as many people that might have survived Order 66 that are still around at this time. So I'm sure he would want to get some kind of advice on what's going on with his reaction to the Force. What does he think about? Does he know any of the Jedi? All that sort of thing. I was thinking more or less like another character that could show up would be Wim, because he could be one of the first Padawans or one of the first apprentices at Luke's academy. We don't see any inclination of the Force with the kid. He doesn't physically use the Force, but he does have his hands on a lightsaber. And yes, we know that there's been people that have used lightsabers that are not Force sensitive, but the idea that it's a kid and you have that hope for a kid, kind of like the broom boy at the end of The Last Jedi, picked up the broom, looking at the moon, like signifying, oh, there's something out there. I would like to see more exploration of, hey, maybe when we see Luke next, we're going to see him at the academy, and we'll just see Wim there, and Wim will pop up for like a short conversation, like, oh yeah, I've been here for the last year, blah blah blah, I miss Ad and blah blah blah, and then that's like all you see of Wim or something. Or maybe it could be even a bigger. He should be a bigger part. He was the actor's great, and he should be more than a cameo. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about at this point.
Oh yeah, I think they could do something like that where they would just like include Wim, like naturally. If we don't get a second season for this show, I think the way you do it is if we see Luke pop up in one of these projects, whether it be like Ahsoka or the movies like Mando movie or the obviously he'll be in the Dave movie, I'm sure, but in one of those types of projects, maybe like, maybe you get like, I don't even know if he wouldn't be involved. Maybe it's just like part of like a resolution, like you see Luke's Jedi temple or something and a few Padawans and like Wim's there just as one of them, as almost like just a cameo character potentially, because that's the only way I could think of him getting involved, because like at the moment he's obviously nowhere near ready to like go full-fledged rebel adventure just yet. So I think it's an interesting thought, and there's some good potential there with those characters. And then of course, like we said with Jude Law, I mean, heck, Chris, they might address the Jude Law Luke thing or the Jad Luke thing. Maybe you get like a don't know, like a 3 comic Luke Jod thing where Luke's like talking to him and trying to get info out of him, and then finally talks to him and whatever, and then maybe he gives him his freedom because he's like, he's Luke and being a good guy, and like, I don't know, or something along those lines. Like maybe we get some sort of story, whether it be on screen or in a book or comic, with Luke and him.
Yeah, man, I still feel like anything with the Mandoverse, like if there's a possibility that a character shows up, they don't use them in anything.
Oh, true.
There's any publishing is like on the back burner unless like the whole thing's finished, then we could see more stuff like that. But I think I don't know how much veracity or credence could be handed to it, but I've seen rumors that there might be a character or two from Skeleton Crew in the Mandalorian Grogu movie. I don't know if you've seen those rumors popping up. I don't know where they originated from, or if I could even bother adding any validity to them, but
I'm not sure. I haven't seen them from like the normal folks, like Bespin or whoever. But if like, the only thing is, when it comes to those type of rumors, I don't like to like go too much in it, because it's kind of like, you're throwing a dart at the wall and hoping it sticks, because it's like, hey, the show was positive, so maybe one of these characters will pop up or something. So it's kind of like just throwing a dart out there. But maybe we get something little, potentially, like maybe you get a pirate reference, maybe you get, because all this stuff in theory is connected during the Mandoverse. So like maybe you get a moment where like hey, here's your connection. What if in the Mando Grogu movie, what if we get a moment where Mando's talking to Carson Teva and he's like, oh, yada yada yada, I gotta go on this mission. I just got called to this, like, something I haven't heard about in a long time, or what, or this, what I mean, like a kind of a reference to it, like where it's like an indirect thing happening at the same time. Like maybe we get a connection that way. Like maybe we'll get some sort of that, like kind of like a Marvel-esque connection, I guess.
Yeah, but as far as looking back at the series as a whole, I gotta appreciate the idea that, again, it was so far flung from the Skywalkers. We've been asking for a show for years now, or a movie, to be just so far flung away from the usual stuff. And this was the best case scenario. We have literally a third tier character that is a throwaway character in Mando Season 3, is literally the only cameo in this thing. He doesn't even mention anything about Mando or anything. Like, you wouldn't even know that this guy was in anything else unless you're hardcore and knew this character. So I love that. I love how we're getting so much different technology. We're getting to explore like this suburbia, but then this whole Star Wars coming of age, the usual vibe of, hey, there's a kid that is trying to find his place in the galaxy. Just very simple. The story in this is very simple. But the idea that they strung us along, not in a bad way, but every week we were going on this podcast talking about, ooh, what could this mean? What could that mean? Oh, do you think this is going to happen? Oh, this got solved, but now a new mystery is in the works. So I like how John Watts and Christopher Ford wrote this thing. So we were finding the breadcrumbs along the ride, and it was a fun ride overall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you. I think they did a good job with it. Just seeding in little story points, like you mentioned before, about like KB's different health issues and things, like, just putting like hints of that early on in the season, and then it paying off later was really nice, because it just added a bit of drama to the show. So I think they did a good job of structuring the show. And then, even us getting to the end of it and it not even being Tak Renat or like Hondo or someone, like, at the end of it was still satisfying the way they did it. That's the important thing. Like, you can give hints and you can do things like that if the ending is really satisfying, and it was. So I think they did a very good job with that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading what Milton was saying. Okay, he's saying, I'm going to hop on, but if they do a second season, it needs to now tie into the Mandoverse. age the kids up for sure. Okay, well, you know, thanks. At least we were able to get a score. We were able to get a score. 8.5. He gave the finale, but he can't connect anymore. Damn. I don't know. That's what happens when you're walking around on Hoth. You got to get that backup generator up and running, man.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah,
But
I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just to like wrap that. I think, I agree with them. I think they should do a second season, and if they do a second season, that's a very good point. You have to organically expand it somehow, like into this series more. I mean, who knows? Maybe like if you want to connect these characters to younger characters, connect them to the Rebels crew, like Ezra and company. Like maybe you do something like that where they somehow connect in one way or another. Like I think there's a few different avenues they can take with it. And then of course you have like if they bump into Din and Grogu, like you're gonna have that cute interaction between the kids and Grogu, I'm sure. So like there are different ways you can do it. It's just a matter of like how you can do it, considering the kids' age whenever this would be filmed, if it would.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that there. But what about you? What was your thoughts overall in the structure of this season? How it was written, it compared to other Star Wars shows?
Yeah, I really liked it. I think they did, for me, this show compared to, I don't like to just dog on the Acolyte, but it was just the most recent thing. Like the Acolyte, I think it did a nice job, like kind of stringing us along episode to episode where we were interested. Like, we got to the end of several of these episodes where we were like, dang, I wish it was next week already. We were excited for the next thing. And it's been quite a while for me personally that I've been getting that feeling, being excited about Star Wars again. Like, the last time I was like that excited, it was like during Ahsoka, and then before that, it was during Mando season 2. But all the other shows in between, it was like, Kenobi, Boba, Andor, Acolyte. Week to week, it was like, instead of being excited week to week, it was more, hopefully next week is better. You know what I mean? Like, it was that whole feeling where it was just like hoping Star Wars would get better next week. And like this show, it did such a nice job of the way they structured the writing, a story, and everything that I was confident throughout that. Like, I was like, there's no way the finale could be bad because the show's been good up to this point. Like, why would it just step off a cliff? So I think they did a really nice job of structuring things and like making a good cohesive story that just kind of, it strings you along in a good way. Like it gives you like, like those just proper like story vibes. Like when you end an episode, you don't want it to be like a total one-off where it's like, well, we could just stop watching the show here. Like this show did a nice job of kind of like making you want that next episode.
Yeah, so there's oh man, I mean, looking at the other series, right? Looking at Book of Boba Fett, even Mando season 2 and season 1, I feel like there was a bit of chop to it sometimes. There was like one episode where I was like, what are we doing here, guys? What are we doing here? I didn't feel that once with this show. Every episode was really concocted well. Now, my one gripe was, these episodes were a little short. Like,
that's a Disney Plus problem, though. that's a Disney thing. I'll take 30 seconds on this, Chris. All right, Disney Plus, let's just become a premium streaming service for once. And, Amazon, HBO, Netflix, Apple, everybody else is like 50 to 60 minute episodes except for you guys, basically. So like let's just shuck out the bucks a little bit and like let us expand the story, because these runtimes are constraining story points where it's like, like you said, the Order 66 thing. Why didn't we see Nina Nawad? Like we could have easily seen a flashback, but did they cut it? Or even like an Acolyte, the Wookiee getting killed off screen. The writer of the episode, she flat out said they cut it because of budgetary reasons, even though the show's budget was crazy. So it's just like the budget, the runtime, all these things, it's just all connected. And like when you have low run times, it just constrains so much of the story down. And we gotta get at minimum, like I always say, you gotta get 42 minutes. That's network television runtime. Every episode of every show should be 42 minutes minimum.
Yep, yeah. Andor is our next hope. I have a lot of confidence that will continue to have those like 40-minute plus episodes. So looking forward to kind of getting into that more acclaimed kind of television that we're used to over there on the HBO Maxes and Netflixes of the world. But yeah, I think that'll about do it for Skeleton Crew. And now, just because the show is over does not mean we're going to not stop. We're going to stop talking about it, obviously. I'm sure we'll hopefully get some tie-ins to novels and comics to some degree. Maybe. I know it's, like I said before, it's a slippery slope with Lucasfilm. They canceled a Mandalorian novel before, so it just seems like they want to be hands-off unless it's a one-to-one adaptation like the comics always are. But yeah, it's been an adventure. It's been a fun 7 weeks. 7 weeks and we're done. The next big thing to look forward to is Star Wars Celebration coming up so quickly. I still got to look for my hotels. I still got to plan my itinerary. I am going. I have the tickets, got the plane tickets. I'm gonna be there, but we'll see what kind of thing pops up between now and then. I'm fully expecting on a random Tuesday at 12 p.m. we're gonna get an animated series reveal, kind of like Bad Batch. If you don't remember, Bad Batch was revealed on StarWars.com on a random Monday or Tuesday. It was a Monday because I was at my one job that I know it was a random Monday. We got a Bad Batch image and a short blurb about that show. I think we'll get that probably before Celebration, and Celebration will give us the full trailer reveal and all that sort of thing. So that's what I'm banking something on. I don't want to bet money on it, but you know, bragging rights, I guess. But anyways, yeah, so great show. Milton's doing fine. He did not get attacked by Wampas. He's getting back to Echo Base just okay. But thanks for joining me again, Ben.
Yeah, no problem. It's always fun hopping on here to talk some Star Wars, and it's always a great way to kind of wrap up the season of a show, is just getting on here and just chatting with you two and everybody who listens. Obviously, thanks to everybody who's been listening along the way and having a good time talking about the show with all of us. It's it's always great and we always appreciate it. And yeah, it's just a great way to end every weekend. But yeah, for me it's been really nice, and just gonna have a good week and just kind of get back into continuing to working out and just doing the normal fitness grind. And if everybody would like to find me on social media, you can find me at RealBenMaynard on X and Instagram. I'm always on there just talking football, Star Wars, DC, and fitness, and that's pretty much it. And then you can find Milton on X at MiltonWeber7, or his Instagram at Milton7Weber, which, you know, he's always posting like workouts and memes and stuff like that on there a lot. He's pretty active on Instagram. So yeah.
Yeah, and we do have a little bit of programming to go over. So I might have made a minor mistake when I said we're live every Sunday, because actually there's a little hitch in the issue here. We are actually taking a break next week. I'll be out of town, but we will be returning on February 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll also be off the following weekend because it's Super Bowl Sunday. So we'll be on the next bi-weekly the next month, basically. So you can expect us on the 2nd and the 16th of February, I guess is the best way to put it. And we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And as far as my channel, I'm not stopping content anytime soon. In fact, I've gone into the realm of gaming a little bit more. I have my reaction to the news that we are getting the Nintendo Switch 2. So if you're into gaming, you want to know about the next Nintendo system, I have my reaction. I'm talking about what details we got from the trailer in that video. So go ahead and check that out. And as always, me and Matthew Neugebauer over on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel every Wednesday at 9 p.m. talking about the latest Star Wars comics on our weekly talk show called Tractor Beam. So for Milton, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starrapter, reporting to you from Echo Base on Hoth. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you. End transmission.